The admission did not arrive with drama or raised voices, and that was exactly why it felt so unsettling. Sam Heughan was speaking in a reflective tone, answering a question that had been framed carefully to avoid personal territory. Yet somewhere between restraint and honesty, he let something slip that could not be taken back. He spoke of feelings that were real, enduring, and far more complicated than friendship, and in doing so, shifted a narrative many believed was permanently sealed. For years, Sam Heughan and Caitriona Balfe existed inside a paradox created by their own success. Their on-screen chemistry was praised as exceptional, yet it became a double-edged sword that followed them everywhere. Any warmth between them was immediately dissected, any distance scrutinized for meaning. To survive that pressure, both learned to guard their words with precision, offering nothing that could be twisted into confirmation. That is why this moment landed so heavily. Sam did not name a relationship or define its boundaries, but he acknowledged emotion in a way that left little room for reinterpretation. He spoke of connection shaped by time, trust, and shared experience, describing feelings that could not simply be switched off when the cameras stopped rolling. It was not a confession staged for effect, but a quiet acknowledgement that reality had always been more complex than public statements suggested. Listeners immediately sensed the shift. This was not the playful deflection fans were used to, nor the polished ambiguity that had become standard. His words carried weight, as if they had been rehearsed internally for years but never intended to be spoken aloud. The reaction was instant, with shock replacing skepticism almost overnight. As clips of the interview spread, old moments resurfaced with renewed intensity. Fans revisited press tours, behind-the-scenes footage, and unscripted exchanges, noticing details that once felt insignificant. A lingering glance, a pause before answering, a subtle change in tone now seemed loaded with meaning. What had long been dismissed as coincidence began to look like pattern. Industry observers were quick to point out the cost of such prolonged restraint. Working closely for years creates emotional bonds that are difficult to categorize, especially under the unique pressure of fame. For Sam, acknowledging real feelings did not necessarily mean crossing a line, but admitting that the line had always been thinner than he allowed himself to say. In a world that demands clarity, he offered nuance instead. There was also a noticeable vulnerability in how he spoke. He did not frame his feelings as something triumphant or romanticized, but as something quietly endured. He described the difficulty of carrying emotion while maintaining professionalism, of being constantly aware that any misstep could redefine an entire career. That honesty resonated because it lacked performance, it felt like release. The shock among fans stemmed not only from what was said, but from who said it. Sam Heughan had built a reputation on discipline and control, rarely allowing personal sentiment to bleed into public conversation. For him to admit real feelings suggested that silence had reached its limit. When someone known for restraint chooses honesty, the impact is magnified. As the conversation intensified, questions multiplied. How long had these feelings existed, and what had it taken to suppress them? Were they mutual, acknowledged, or simply accepted as part of a shared past? Sam did not answer these questions directly, and perhaps that was intentional. Leaving space for interpretation allowed the truth to exist without being confined. By the end of this chapter, one thing became clear. Sam Heughan had not revealed a secret so much as validated a reality many had sensed but could never confirm. His admission did not rewrite history, but it reframed it, turning years of speculation into something quieter and more human. The shock came not from scandal, but from sincerity, and that sincerity changed how the story could ever be told again. As the reaction unfolded, it became clear that Sam Heughan's admission had shifted the emotional center of the story. What once lived safely in speculation was now grounded in something he openly acknowledged as real. The conversation moved away from rumors and toward responsibility, forcing both fans and media to reconsider how they framed years of silence. When feelings are named, even without details, they stop being abstract. Caitriona Balfe's response, or lack of one, added another layer of intensity. She did not rush to clarify, correct, or counter what Sam had said. and that restraint spoke volumes. Those close to her describe a person who values privacy not as a shield, but as a boundary. In moments like this, saying nothing can be a deliberate act of self-preservation rather than avoidance. What many overlooked was how much effort it takes to sustain ambiguity for so long. Constantly redirecting questions, calibrating tone, and managing expectations is emotionally taxing. For Sam, acknowledging real feelings may have been less about revelation and more about relief. Carrying something unspoken for years has a way of reshaping a person from the inside out. The fan response reflected that tension. Some embraced the admission as long-awaited honesty, feeling validated after years of intuition and observation. Others felt unsettled, as if a carefully maintained balance had been disrupted without warning. The divide highlighted a difficult truth. Audiences often crave authenticity, but only when it aligns with their expectations. Behind the scenes, the implications were being quietly assessed. Advisors and publicists understand that even a measured admission can recalibrate an entire narrative. Careers are not only built on roles, but on perceptions, and altering those perceptions carries risk. Yet there are moments when maintaining a facade costs more than confronting reality. What stood out most was the absence of escalation. No follow-up interviews were arranged to capitalize on the moment. No clarifying statements were issued to refine the message. The restraint suggested that this was not a strategic pivot, but a boundary being drawn. Sometimes, honesty is offered once and left to stand on its own. As days passed, the intensity softened, replaced by reflection. Without new fuel, the story revealed its core. Two people shaped by shared history, navigating emotion under extraordinary scrutiny. The lack of spectacle allowed a more human interpretation to surface, one that did not require labels or outcomes to feel complete. Questions inevitably remained. Were these feelings ongoing, resolved, or simply acknowledged after the fact? Did they ever cross into something more, or did they exist quietly alongside professionalism and distance? Sam's words did not answer these questions, and perhaps that was intentional. Ambiguity can protect truth when precision would only distort it. In the end, Sam Heughan's admission did not deliver a conclusion, it delivered context. It reframed years of interaction through a lens of honesty rather than denial. By acknowledging real feelings without defining them, he allowed the story to breathe without being confined. And in doing so, he reminded everyone that not every truth demands explanation, some only require recognition. Even now, the ripple effects of that admission continue to surface in subtle ways. Every shared memory, every past interview, and every moment of visible closeness is being reconsidered with fresh eyes. What once felt ordinary now carries emotional residue. The story has shifted from curiosity to quiet contemplation. There is also a deeper cost rarely acknowledged in public conversations. Admitting real feelings means accepting that they can be misunderstood, exaggerated, or permanently frozen in public memory. Once spoken, they no longer belong solely to the person who felt them. That loss of ownership is a price few are prepared for. For Caitriona Balfe, the situation remains defined by restraint rather than reaction. Her silence does not erase what was said, but it prevents the narrative from spiraling further. In an environment that rewards oversharing, choosing stillness can be an act of strength. It allows emotion to exist without becoming spectacle.